Namaste, everybody. Lisa Romani here, the Breakthrough Life Coach. And today I want to talk about one of the most sinister things that can happen when we've been abused by a narcissist and we're trying to break free. And it's an aspect of narcissistic abuse that I think that we should really think about, because I think that the more we come to terms with how narcissistic abuse invades the way we interact with the world and can actually create behaviors in us that are so dysfunctional that we're not even aware of it, right? So we're doing things that we wouldn't ordinarily do, but we're caught up in this cycle, and without being kicked out of the cycle and without having some awareness around it, we just keep doing what we've always done, even if it's dysfunctional. But what am I talking about? I think one of the most sinister things about being the victim of narcissistic abuse is that number one, you don't even know that you're being abused, right? And people who come from abusive backgrounds, who have had parents who have negated them, minimized them, and marginalized them, humiliated them, sexually abused them, or psychologically abused them, you name it. Those of us who come from backgrounds where our inner realities were always doubted, or we were taught that what we thought and what we felt was irrelevant and that we shouldn't trust it. Now, as adults, we attract people who minimize us or who have more narcissistic traits than someone who doesn't. And suddenly, when we have an emotion, we don't naturally validate that emotion. When we have a gut instinct or a belief or a concern, we don't naturally trust that belief or that concern. And we may not always realize that because of our background, because we've been so detached from the self, because, the people who raised us perhaps, or our situation or our circumstances put us in a situation where we were just living in survival, right? We were lucky we got through a day. We don't realize that growing up, not checking in with the self, not asking, how do I feel? What do I think? What do I need? What is my perception of this situation? Not doing that has conditioned us to not check in with the self as adults. Now, you attract someone into your life who is really self-absorbed, but to the extreme, who feels entitled to exploit people, who walks around thinking every person in the world is an asshole but them. Everybody else is wrong, and nothing is their fault. And if people have problems with them, it's because it has nothing to do with them. There's no ability or desire to self-reflect. And did I say something wrong? Or, was I being abusive? Was I being sarcastic? There's none of that. There's no, maybe I was wrong going on, right? Okay. So let's say you attract someone like that into your life and you come into the situation already doubting yourself. That makes you a prime candidate for psychological abuse. One of the most sinister things about being the victim of abuse is how you end up doubting your reality and how you can end up going to extreme types of behavior to justify and validate your reality. I remember when I was going through my divorce, and even before that, I needed permission from my ex to validate my perception. I didn't feel like I had a right to what I saw, even if it happened in front of me. Let's say we knew that one of our friends was cheating on his wife, and I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe that so-and-so is cheating on his wife. I've seen it. I saw him get in the car with this female. He told us not to tell his wife. He told us that he's going down to the motel down on Northern Boulevard. And if I turned to my ex and said, I can't believe he's cheating on his wife, he would say, I'm not kidding. No, he's not. That's not happening. That's not what he said. Did you see it happen? So, and I would say, oh, no. He did. Look what he said. He basically led us to believe that this is what's happening. He just didn't say I'm cheating on my wife. And I would feel like, because my ex didn't validate what I felt or what I said or even what I saw, that it was invalid. And it would make me feel topsy-turvy like all the time. And I would be almost obsessed with like proving that this guy was cheating on his wife. Has nothing to do, it's not my business, right? But my mind was like so twisted with not trusting itself, right? That I would go to the extremes to try to prove my point. And I didn't realize that that was a hook. That one of the ways that a narcissistic person or a person with high narcissistic traits will keep us hooked is by suggesting that our reality is invalid. And I think that's because there's a natural desire for the mind to make sense out of what we've just seen, right? The brain is a congruent tool, meaning that it wants to feel pretty okay and make sense of things, right? Like it wants to put things in order so things make sense. So, if I have a belief that so-and-so is cheating on his wife and I've been led to believe that, but the person that I'm codependent upon who has high narcissistic traits is basically telling me that I'm batshit crazy, I'm going to naturally want to prove my point. And I can lose myself in trying to prove that point. For those of us who have had partners who have cheated on us, and we've caught them red-handed, and what do they say? It wasn't me. That's not what you saw. Yeah, so what? She was naked in my bed. Doesn't mean I had sex with her. Or I didn't ask her to come to my house. That girl was drunk when she showed up. I don't know how she got in the house. I don't know. Maybe she stole my key at work. The stuff that we hear, right? Crazy. But let's say we are dealing with someone who has cheated on us or has lied to us. We have to be really, really careful, especially if we come from abusive backgrounds, because we don't naturally feel connected to how we feel. We feel detached and dissociated. We have tremendous self-doubt. And so what we do is we approach the situation not realizing that we're asking this person to validate what we think. Now, when you're trying to get somebody with high narcissistic traits to validate the fact that they treated you like an idiot or an asshole, that's just not going to happen. If you're trying to get someone with high narcissistic traits to hear you and to validate that they have done something cruel to you, it's not going to happen. Now, if we don't consciously and logically recognize that, we can be hooked. We can, outside our conscious awareness, get so caught up trying to prove to this person that our reality is real. Our minds feel and think and our bodies experience this reality, but because below the veil of consciousness we have such self-doubt, we don't realize that we're asking this person outside of us who has actually wounded us to agree with us, to agree that they have in fact wounded us. Now that can cause crazy-making behavior, because if we don't trust the self and trust our feelings and trust what we see, what will happen is we can set ourselves up for becoming obsessed with this person and trying to prove this person wrong. And then you know what happens? We look like the crazy person. We look like the person that's obsessed with this other person. We're trying to prove that he's cheating on us, so we're checking his phone, we're tracking him on Facebook, we're making sure he's home when he says he's going to be home, or we're talking to her friends, or whatever. We're trying to prove that this person is this horrible person, to justify our perception of this person, because below the veil of consciousness, we don't recognize that we don't trust the self, and that we have been minimized our entire life, and that we're still seeking validation. When you're seeking validation from somebody with high narcissistic traits, it is a freaking rabbit hole. It's not going to happen. Their agenda is to not hear you. They can't hear you, right? They can't go there. They can't go there. They can't go to the place where they're able to be self-reflective. They can't genuflect and be humble and say, wow, what have I done? They can't, right? We have to recognize that in someone's personality. Another problem is that so many of us don't know what normal is. We don't know what it's like to say to somebody, when you said this, I was insulted. And we don't know what it's like to have someone go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That wasn't my intention. What bothered you about what I said? Can you tell me why that bothered you. Why do you feel that bothered you? I want to know more about you and why that comment was sensitive for you. And then you tell the person, well, my mom was an alcoholic, and when I hear you use the word drunk or, some other negative word about alcoholics, it's a trigger for me. And, I love my mom. I know that she was ill, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm a little sensitive to that word. And have your friend or your lover or your spouse or whatever say to you, you know what, I didn't know that. And I can slip into your skin, and I can understand based on your experiences why you would be sensitive to that. And because I care about you, I'm going to make sure that I don't use that word to the best of my ability. I don't want to hurt you. And that's because I value you and I want you to feel like I trust you. Lots of us, have never had that, right? Right now, my kids are going through an experience with their dad, and he just doesn't get it. And what they're looking for him to say is, I understand that when I did this thing, you were hurt. You were terribly hurt. You feel like I chose this other person over the three of you. You feel, that's how you feel. And oh my God, you feel abandoned by me. And I'm so sorry that you feel abandoned by me. How can I fix this? How can I make it better? No. That doesn't happen. Unfortunately with him, they're wrong. They're 100% wrong. And he cannot slip into their skin. And from their perspective, see their point of view. Can't do it. Healthy people have the ability to understand how other people feel. It's empathy. Empathy makes us human. Hello. And if we don't have empathy, we could have too much empathy and then lose ourselves. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ability to understand how someone else feels, right? Without losing yourself. That's healthy. There was a time in my life, where I was over empathetic. And I still have to manage that because it's so easy for me to let go of, let's say, a plan that I had for myself because my kids want to do something. Or, I make sure that everybody is taken care of before I eat. Or I make sure that everybody has what they need before I figure out what I need. I have to manage that, as a recovering codependent. And as just somebody who is highly intuitive and empathic, who can pick up on the pulse of people in the room, and I know what people need before they even know what they need, and just pick up on how and what would make the situation go smoother. It's something that I have to navigate, mitigate, and be highly responsible for. But when you're dealing with somebody who doesn't have the ability to have empathy, right, it can be so damaging because, and if that's your experience with parents, you don't know what it's like to have a parent say to you, I can understand you're two, right, and you're tired, and, you're hungry, and we've been out all damn day shopping, and you have to go to the bathroom, and I'm irritable, and, you wanted that toy, and I said no, and that's why you're upset, right? And it's okay. I know why you're upset, and we're going to get home soon. Don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. You soothe the 2-year-old, right? You understand how the 2-year-old feels. But so often parents are like, shut up, that, hurry up, get in the car. And you get so frustrated. You're not seeing the child. Now, you're 4, you're 5, you're 6, and this is continuing throughout your life where you're minimized. She's a baby. She's a drama queen. She's just looking for attention. Or, he's a sissy. Or, boys don't cry. And that. And you take all of these experiences of being unseen, and what happens is you become an adult who devalues the self. Now, we have to understand that the self is tied to how we feel. We very much, if we feel like our emotions are validated by someone else, we feel like the self has been validated. So imagine going through life, like so many of you can relate to, and never having your experiences or you're having your emotions validated. So now you're an adult and you're kind of dissociated from your emotions and thus self-alienated, right? You feel like an alien in your own skin, right? Imposter syndrome and all this crap. Like you feel like a shell. That's not your fault. And there's a way back to the self. Thank heaven, which is so awesome. But it's important that we recognize that if we've come from that type of a background, as adults, we don't value how we feel. And then we attract somebody who doesn't value how we feel. and we can become hooked. And then what happens is the craziness starts, because when you tell me that I didn't see what I saw, then I have to prove to you that I saw what I saw. Then I'm on a hook. You have cast out the hook. I have taken the bait. The hook is in my mouth. And now I have to follow your ass around to prove to you and everybody else and myself that I'm not batshit crazy, right? That's dysfunctional. We have to recognize what's really wrong, right? So oftentimes, we're looking at the effect, but we're not looking at the cause. So if I am trying to prove my ex has been cheating on me, and now I'm tracking him and I'm following him, I'm talking to ex-girlfriends, and I'm not in my own skin anymore. I'm outside of myself. I'm trying to prove something that this person is going to go to hell or heaven, whatever, to try to prove that he is not happening, right? So here I am, I'm hooked, and I'm addicted to proving myself right, because I need for this person, or I need some concrete evidence to prove that I'm not crazy, because I'm detached from myself and I'm not trusting myself, right? So it's important that we recognize that in abusive relationships, especially relationships with narcissists, it's insidious when you are dealing with someone who's making you doubt your reality. It is horrible to be dealing with somebody whose agenda it is to cheat on you, lie to you, marginalize you, abuse you in some way, get you to become a puppet, right? Get you to disown how you feel, who they feel entitled to exploit you to the extreme, cheat on you, lie to you, take your money, whatever, right? They feel entitled to do that, right? And then when you confront them, they tell you that that's not happening. Or they tell you it's your fault that it happened. Oh my God. Hello. Right? And if you come from a dysfunctional home, when someone says, well, it's your fault that I did that, you question like, oh my God, am I the reason that he or she is behaving this way? Oh my God. So I'm hoping that in this video, what you guys are taking away is this sense of feeling so invisible throughout childhood that you also doubt how you feel today, doubt that you have a right to feel what you feel, and that you might, below the veil of consciousness, might be needing this person to validate you. In my case, I needed my ex-husband to say, yes, we're sick and we should get a divorce. Like, I hung on for years because he didn't agree with me, right? When I would tell him, I'm so sick, like my body's failing, there's something wrong, like with us. I was waiting for him to say, yes, Lisa, you're right. The relationship is making you sick. Yes, you're right. I'm, highly narcissistic and passive aggressive and sarcastic, and I don't process emotions at all. I don't care about your emotions. I was waiting for him to say that because I didn't know because I was below the veil of consciousness that I was doing it. I didn't know that I needed his validation. I didn't know that I needed his permission to feel what I felt. And below the veil of consciousness, here I was running my life day in and day out, taking care of kids, trying to be good enough for this person, right? And then there you were. I was just losing myself more and more and more because my rights to feel what I felt were violated long before I ever met him. My rights to feel a feeling and feel empowered to believe in that feeling was violated long before I met him. The cause was not him. He was an effect. The relationship was an effect, but the cause was my dysfunctional childhood. It was childhood programming. It was being raised by two unrecovered adult children of alcoholics who would tell you that they tried to make us feel like we were not good enough because they didn't want conceited children. My father talks about that. Okay, and I tell him, like, Dad, congratulations. You had 3 children who had eating disorders, low self-esteem, hated themselves, self-loathing, self-sabotage, had lived with tremendous self-doubt. It's a miracle we survived. Seriously, just saying. So it's important that if you are in a dysfunctional relationship and you feel like you are waiting for your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whoever to give you permission to feel what you feel about them, just check yourself and help your conscious mind recognize that that is dysfunctional. And that if you're dealing with somebody who has high narcissistic traits, they're not going to validate what you see. So if you're hanging on because you're waiting for them to validate you, you're going to be hanging on the rest of your natural life. Part of what lights a fire under my ass to produce the kind of content that I create, and I create massive amounts of content every day on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, for my blog, webinars, videos, programs, constantly, books, constantly creating content. Part of, and a big reason for that is because people die from this. My mom died from this. I believe that my brother-in-law committed suicide from this, and when I say this, I mean this freaking epidemic of codependency and living below the veil and childhood programming and not knowing that you don't know, not realizing that you're coming from a place of I am not enough, not knowing that you don't have life skills, not knowing that you are seeking someone else's validation, not knowing that you doubt yourself and that you're with somebody who you think you need permission from to feel a feeling about them. No, you don't, but you think that you do, and you're below the veil of consciousness because life's holographic and you're living off a paradigm and a program from the past. You just don't know it. People die from this. I watched my mom die from this, and she got dementia. She was a puppet. To the day she died, she was a puppet. And it breaks my heart to know that there are people everywhere in this world that are dying codependent, that are dying not knowing that they're enough. They are dying in relationships that are patterns from the past, that men and women are engaging in relationships that are about unfinished business from the past, and they just don't know it. And they just keep doing what they've always done, and they don't realize that there's a better way. And it's just very, very sad. And I really do think that has to do with, us being conscious as well as unconscious at the same time. That you can think that you're conscious, and you can think that you engaging in a relationship is of your own free will, and be unaware that you're just recycling the past. In my case, my first marriage, I married my mother, and my ex-husband was her emotional twin, and I was trying to gain her validation. I didn't realize that, but he was a stand-in for her, and all of the same patterns that were unresolved in childhood were present in my relationship with him. And I could never get her validation, and I never got his, and I never will. And I had to wake up in this lifetime so that my soul could evolve in this lifetime. And some people don't wake up in this lifetime. And like my mom, who passed away on my birthday this year, she did not wake up. Well, maybe she did, I don't know. But from what I could tell as her daughter, I don't think so. There might have been some awareness around, she did say to me while she was in the hospital, she did say, remember she had dementia, and she said, I know why I'm here. And I said, why, Mom? Why are you here? Why do you think you're here? And she said, because I did too much. I said, Ma, you can't blame yourself for being in this hospital. And she said, nope. And she looked me dead in the eye. And she had these amazing blue eyes. And she said, Lisa, I just did too much. And that might have been her language for, I know that I should have done something else. I know that there was another choice, but I didn't take it. Could have been. That's my gut, that on some level she knew that she should have made other choices, especially with my dad. It was too late. She had dementia. She went into renal failure, and she ultimately, died. And so it's really important to share this information. It's really important to understand that the soul has the ability to evolve. And if you're hearing this message, that's no coincidence, because there are no coincidences in life. There are none. And so if you've had goosebumps during this video, if you've cried, if you've had an aha moment, if you've had a breakthrough, then that means this video was just for you. You were meant to hear this message. And I think that's pretty freaking cool. And I love the internet. That's one of the things I absolutely love about the internet, that can happen. So know that you're enough. Know that it's not you. It's just programming that has to be corrected. Know that it can be corrected. Know that our patterns are neurological, and our stress responses have been sensitized. And to heal and to do something else, you have to be desensitized. We have to reverse this conditioning. That's what I teach. And that there is a way out. And if you hopefully you walk away with this idea that when we're involved with highly narcissistic people, part of that relationship has to do with causing great self-doubt in the victim. And then when we are being abused, we doubt that we see what we see and we feel what we feel. And then we can become obsessed with chasing them and trying to find them do something wrong because we need evidence that this is wrong. You don't need evidence if you feel it. You don't need evidence if you know that it's something has happened before. You don't need any more evidence, but you would think you do. And that's how you can become addicted to someone else and actually proving them wrong. And that's just no way to live. That's you living outside of yourself, and that's just not necessary because all of your power is on the inside. And the goal is to learn to listen to yourself and value how you feel and to learn how to make decisions in the 3D world, right, that are in alignment with what you truly want to experience in your lifetime. That takes time. It takes lots of time, and it takes lots of patience and lots of practice. And I just pray that this video in some way has helped. So again, my name is Lisa Romano. I'm the Breakthrough Life Coach, and you can go to audible.com and download, that's my book, The Road Back to Me, which will be out in Spanish soon. I'm so excited. But you can actually download The Road Back to Me for free, or any one of my other books on audible.com. You can also take part in my monthly membership site where I have tons and tons and tons of audios, programs, videos, meditations, affirmations, you name it, journaling prompts, daily challenges, and a wonderful Facebook community as well, private Facebook community as well. And you can check out one of my more extensive and more personal coaching programs, online coaching programs, all catered to the abused adult child who wants to heal from childhood programming and is ready to take on recovery with everything that you've got. You can do this, dear one. You can do this. Namaste. Bye for now.